right. Okay. Hello, everybody. As Luciana said, my name is Whitney, and Organic Connects is a nonprofit 501c3 that engages urban communities, urban families, and youth in recreation, education, outdoor opportunities with the end goal of assisting youth get involved with job opportunities or connecting them to job opportunities, whether it be long-term or internship, whatever you decide to do. If you have the passion, our goal is to help you fulfill that. So I'm just going to progress through this slide presentation and follow with me. It's interactive. I would like for you to participate as best you can. Okay, so a little bit of information about me. I was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I moved to Cleveland when I was about 9. I went to Case Western Reserve and studied biology, and I studied continued education at University of Rhode Island, majoring in fine arts. I am married with 2 children, and I love nature, working with youth, and I believe that there's a huge importance of family and community engagement. So you'll see some pictures of me, my family, some friends at the bottom. And if anyone's curious, that collage of me, I was 1, 4, started from the bottom right, 1, 4, 10, and then going up, 18, that's my graduation picture from high school, and 30 years old. So you can see there's been some changes in my hairstyles as you age, we progress and find our identity. So I encourage that. So here are a couple of rules that I would like for us to follow just so we can make sure we're having an enjoyable and impactful presentation. So number 1, this is a rule that my husband and I say at the beginning of every youth activity that we do, and it's just stuck for the last 4 or 5 years. Respect yourself, respect others, and respect the environment. So generally that covers everything. Respecting yourself, being patient, being observant of other people's opinions and respectful of them, keeping an open mind even if you disagree, waiting to talk if someone else is talking. And the environment, if we were outdoors, we would say if you drop anything, pick it up off the ground. If you see something that you didn't drop, pick it up too. Leave the place better than you found it. If anyone has any questions, there are the hand notifications, the emojis to get someone's attention as opposed to unmuting yourself and speaking out. We encourage participation, but again, we just want to be respectful about that. The voice by choice means that, yes, we encourage your participation, but we understand that sometimes you just don't want to. So again, I encourage it. If you have any questions, type it in the chat, share aloud when it's appropriate, and we'll go from there. So what I'd like to know about, I shared a little bit about myself, and I would really like to know something about you. So please share with me your name, and you can just jot this right in the chat. Your name, which I should see on your screen if it's there, the grade you're in, what school you go to, why you're here today, what you want to do after high school or college, and then eventually long term. So we're thinking along the lines of education, of environmentalism. So I also want to state that we know that college is not for everyone. Some people don't have college in their plans, which is perfectly fine. If you want to learn a trade, if you want to just come out of high school and start working, if you want to travel the world and you have the opportunity to do that, share that with us. I'd like to know. So I'll give you a couple minutes. Those are quite a few questions to jot some info, throw some info into the chat. I'm curious to learn who is on the call today. Our first goal is addressing the lack of diversity in the environmental justice movement and workforce industry. And we're going to talk a little bit more about these. So I'm only reading this slide, and I know the words are here, but I'm stressing this because we'll be talking about it a little bit later. The second goal is bringing awareness to the social inequities that are tied to historical systemic oppression through the avenues of environmentalism. And goal 3 is increasing access to opportunities, green space, and healthy food options. Goal 4 is inspiring urban youth to become the next generation of environmental stewards. and also social justice leaders. So, okay, as we start to break down these goals, the first one is addressing the lack of diversity in the environmental justice movement. So I have a question for you. And when you answer this question, feel free to jot it in the chat, and we'll go over the answer. I'm curious to know what all you know about, certain data. So based on a study done in 2014, what is the percentage of ethnic people in roles of leadership? This study was done by Dr. Dorcetta Taylor out of Michigan State University, and she interviewed 300 plus of the largest environmental organizations in the country, and got some really interesting results. So let's see what some of your answers are. Anyone else care to share their answers? If you're unsure, feel free to take a guess.
Yeah, I just guessed in the chat, so feel free to throw your answer in there as well.
Okay. Kwame, Lexa, any responses? I'm calling you out, so you all better be ready. Lana, this is a small group, so I can do that with you. Okay, I think we have everyone. So going on to the next slide. Good guess, Luciana. So less than 12% people of color hold positions at the executive, board, and management levels in these organizations that were surveyed. And that includes Black, Latino, Asian, and Native. So if we were to break this information down by individual ethnic group, it would obviously be less than 12%. So that's something that we need to work on. And that's one of the goals to increase of organic connections, increasing diversity within these organizations, which is why we have a heavy career readiness focus. Goal 2, bringing awareness to social inequities tied to historical systemic oppression. So here's the question for you. The zip code that you live in can determine your life expectancy. What is the difference in life expectancy between a white person living in the suburbs compared to a Black person living in the inner city? And this, I should have put this in the question, this is based on Cleveland and first and second ring suburbs. Are you changing your answer, Kwame?
My answer to this question is C.
Okay. Okay, so we have a couple answers here. C, C, C. Well, you all chose the correct answer. C, a white man living in 44124, which is Lyndhurst, south of Euclid, can expect to live 12 years longer than a Black man living in 44104 in the St. Clair Superior neighborhood. So that life expectancy is 70 years versus 58. And the picture that I have right here to the right is based on data from Stockton, California. So, and that's a 15-year difference. So these studies have been done all over the country, and similar results have been found, which you're absolutely right, is definitely unfortunate, and something needs to happen about this. So goal 3, we have another question for you. Increasing access to opportunities, green space, and healthy food options. Based on a study done in 2017, how many children in Cuyahoga County suffer from food insecurity? Kwame, you're smiling. All right, anybody else? Feel free to take a stab at, well, take a guess if you're not sure. All right, we will move on to the answer. And unfortunately, it is A. 1 in 6 children suffer from food insecurity in Cuyahoga County. And this was a study done by, the Cuyahoga County Food Bank in 2017. I'm looking at this chat here. Yes, it's really, really sad. So it's safe to assume that if you're working with children and, there's a group of friends that are always hanging out together, it's safe to assume and really unfortunate that one of those children may be suffering from food insecurity. And 1 in 5 children live in a food insecure household. So goal 4, inspiring youth to become the next generation of environmental stewards and social justice leaders. So what roles in our society impact local communities? I'll give you a second to answer. Awesome. Yes, all of them. So going on to the next one, and this is what I like to tell our youth participants. As the next generation of leaders, the time is now for you to become involved in change making. So if we're looking at one thing that we also focus on is if we're telling our youth that they need to become involved, we also need to work with organizations that are willing to work with them. It's a two-way street. We don't want to put all the onus on our children, on our youth, but we do want to encourage them to be aware of what's going on and the impact that they can have. So policymakers, community organizations, and organizers who stand up for what they believe in have a big impact on our future. So, just think of the Black Lives Matter movement, Me Too. All those movements have gained a lot of publicity and a lot of traction and a lot of following. And without those people who are speaking up, then we probably would not be where we are today. And a ton of others, and not just them. So let's see. Did I just click the same slide? Okay. So moving on, I wanted to share a little information about one of the programs that Organic Connects is operating. It's called REIGN, R-E-I-G-N. It is our Environmental Leadership Development Program. And that stands for Radical Engagement and Involvement with Green Networks. So this is a year-long program with opportunity for summer employment from September to May during the school year, and it's open to high school students who are interested in environmentalism. So what we do is meet weekly and have social justice discussions, environmental service projects, attend a community engagement event, and also do some professional development. So, it's toughening up those soft skills, attending an organization's board meeting. So really preparing you for the environment, the workforce. So here are some more questions for you. And this, if everybody's okay with it, feel free to unmute, and I would like to have a little bit of a conversation with you, because this could be a lot to type into the chat. So I feel like we're all, mature and respectful enough to be able to have a controlled conversation. So what does the ideal community look like to you? And feel free to share aspects of the community that you live in, communities you're familiar with, because to be honest with you, some of the youth we work with come from communities that they're not proud of. So what does that ideal community look like to you? Now, I'll give you a second to think about it, but I would like to hear from a couple of the folks on the call.
Can I go?
Absolutely.
My ideal community would have a lot of walkable space, lots of local um, um, local food and like beverage spots, and lots of green space. Those are like three things that, yeah.
Mhm. I like that. What about businesses and, a lot of the places that we frequent on, you mentioned walkability, so that means that you'd like for there to be the type of venues that you frequent in walking distance. And what are some of those places?
So definitely coffee shops.
Okay.
Um, yeah, definitely coffee shops, bars and restaurants,
Mhm, mhm.
and also libraries and bookshops.
Yes, library is a good one. I agree with you on that. Luciana agrees with you on the coffee shop. Anybody else like to add anything to that? So I would have to agree with you on the green space. I'm a big outdoor kind of person. I also put, let's see, transportation, so like bus stops. So with that walkability, for people who don't have vehicles, they can still get around easily. And then some folks have mobility issues where they can't walk. But if there is transportation that they can access, that's helpful. Stores, churches, so faith communities for people who believe in, spirituality, religion, and those are, so you name pretty much the places that I listed too. All right, anybody else before we move on? Okay. So what are some of the benefits of engaging with nature?
Fresh oxygen.
Oxygen, absolutely. Hold on to that statement, fresh oxygen. We'll come back, we'll visit that in a couple slides in the future. Anyone else? What are some of the benefits of engaging with nature?
I think it's nice to just engage, especially in Ohio where we don't have a lot of daylight. It's nice to just be in the sunlight. And
Mhm.
I think it helps with stressful situations, high blood pressure, things like that, to just be outside.
Yeah. Very true, very true.
Free vitamin D.
Did you say free?
Yeah, free vitamin D. We produce our own vitamin D when in the sunlight for over 15 minutes.
Yes, I love it. I don't think I've ever heard anyone refer to it that way, but I guess it is free. Alexa, I think Alexa said she's the one unable to unmute. I really would like for her to expand on the comment. We can learn a lot from nature that can help us advance technology. We did a program on biomimicry over the summer, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a biology student as well at the University of Akron, so there's a lot of biomimicry classes that I can take.
Awesome. I did attend are you all familiar with LEAP, the Lake Erie Allegheny Partnership? It's it's a cohort of environmental organizations. And the very first meeting I went to maybe 4 years ago was at University of Akron. And we heard from, I cannot remember this doctor's name, tall, slim, white guy. Alexa, maybe you are taking a class from him, but he did an awesome presentation on biomimicry. And I might know it if I saw it. Yes, thank you, Luciana. All right, so I have a couple of infographics here. Can everyone see that, or is that kind of small? That talk a little bit about some of the benefits of engaging with nature. And you all hit quite a few of them on the head. So this one is a health and wellness slide. I'm all over the place. And healthy eyes and vitamin D levels. It's helpful for pregnant mothers. Increased physical activity, social, emotional well-being are a few of the things that I gathered from the Children in Nature Network. And here is an academic one for improved academic outcomes. So better performance, enhanced attention, improved behavior, and increased engagement and enthusiasm. So there have been a number of studies that have shown that being around trees, and I think I cannot remember who was saying it earlier, if it was Alexa or Lana, being around trees helps to reduce anxiety, it reduces stress, and helps to aid depression. And there's just so many things about nature that we can all definitely benefit from. So I want to minimize this. So why do we need environmentally healthy communities? So Kwame, you were mentioning clean air, fresh, clean oxygen. Unfortunately, there are places in this country and in the world that are experiencing unclean air. So here are these pictures show two examples of the importance of clean drinking water and healthy air quality. So why do you all feel that we need environmentally healthy communities?
I think to the point of life expectancy that you spoke about earlier, I think it's also really important for life outcomes in terms of health and well-being, and also just being able to function effectively within like the community.
Yeah, I like that, especially on the platform of equity. Having environmentally healthy communities shouldn't be something that only some people have access to. And I don't know the numbers, but I do know that countries that have public access, free, clean drinking water are a lot healthier than countries like the US where that's not the case.
Absolutely. And this really goes back to the historic and systemic oppression that we were referring to. So when we think of situations like redlining, and how populations were pushed into specific neighborhoods, and white flight when folks moved out of neighborhoods, and then there was the disinvestment from the government to take care of those communities, then, we saw the formation of, what are now called ghettos. So the picture on the right does anybody know where that's located? It's local. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with that picture. So this is Lakeview Terrace. This is the first housing development in the country that opened up in the mid-1930s. And in the 60s, the Shoreway Wall was built, and this is located in Ohio City. So right at the West 25th and Detroit Avenue intersection, if you head down the hill of West 25th north, going towards the Cuyahoga River, then you'll run into this huge complex of buildings and a tower for the residents of that community. So there's probably about 700 or so residents that live in this housing development, this housing complex, and a majority of them are children and families and, pets. So if you look in the distance, you'll see piles of ground rock. And even further out, there's a sand company. And across the river, going even further north, is Cargill, the salt mining company. So all of these organizations, all these companies within walking distance of this housing unit are uncovered mounds of ground pollutant, air pollutants that once the air kicks up, then they create a particulate matter that's inhaled by the residents that live there. So folks have reported respiratory problems, have reported getting asthma since they've lived in this area that they've never had before in their life. and children being born with breathing issues. So there's a really, really big initiative and project right now to figure out how to address this poor air quality. And it's not so much that it's just these piles, these mounds of ground rock and salt and sand that are causing the poor air quality. It's also the shoreway. So residents have also reported feeling excluded from the community because when that shoreway wall was built, it literally creates a barrier to the rest of Ohio City. You know, putting Lakeview Terrace in a community all its own to deal with this poor air quality issue that they've been experiencing for over 60 years now. So just sharing that with all of you. And okay, so my presentation is about over. Now, if we had, 20, 15, 20 people, this would have taken longer because we would have gone through different answers and questions. But I want to take a moment now for anyone who has any questions or comments. So feel free to open up and ask away.